In this video, I want to show you how to summarize data in a column chart. The scenario that we have data for is the number of travelers to Caribbean destination given a country of origin. So we would like to summarize that in a column chart. And in particular, we'd like to summarize that through a clustered and a stacked column chart. So let's go ahead and get started and open up the starting file for this learning activity. Once you open up the file for the learning activity, we'll see the various destinations from the Caribbean that we're interested in and 4 countries, US, Canada, and Europe. So what we'd like to do is summarize this with first a clustered column chart. So let's go ahead and go select an empty cell. The reason why this is important is that Excel will not guess what kind of format your data is in as long as you're in an empty cell. But if you were to click the focus inside the table, most of the time Excel will guess incorrectly, albeit the type of chart that you actually want. So I always start from a clean slate. Let's go to Insert and then go to the column portion of the ribbon. And we can see there's actually a wide variety of different types of column charts that we can display. Typically, I utilize the 2-dimensional, but we can certainly change this later once we create it to many different things. For example, 3D column, which shows, the width and depth of the column. We could change those rectangular prisms, if you will, to cylinders, cones, or even pyramids. So in general, I'd say the most frequently occurring chart is the 2D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first option here, which is the clustered. And I'm just going to move this sheet over to the right. If we click on the canvas, we can go to select data. And it's going to ask us, like other options, to add our series. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add the series. The first series that we're going to add is USA. The values, once we remove this 1 portion, the values will actually be the number of tourists coming from the US to those various Caribbean destinations. Let's hit OK. Right now, if I move this over, what you're seeing is the number of US citizens that went to the destinations, but it's not clear right now which one of these Caribbean destinations refer to these numbers. And the reason why you're seeing 1 through 9 is because that's the default horizontal category. It's just simply a count how many categories we have. In this case, we have 9. So we would actually want to edit this horizontal category. And simply in this axis label range, select the 9 different destinations that we have. So immediately we can see a preview of that. And we have those displayed here. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm just going to hit OK now. And just show you what we have so far. So we have the column charts for just the US citizens traveling, and basically a breakdown of the number displayed as a column with our legend from the blue series here, which corresponds to USA. So now, if we would like to add another one, I'm going to show you a quick way to do it to generate the graph, and then I want to go through the step-by-step process. So one of the easiest ways to add series to a graph is actually clicking on the chart and usually a white space. And what you'll notice here is that we actually have this range lit up, the USA and the numbers corresponding to those destinations. What you can actually do is grab this series here and actually pull it to the right. And we're going to quickly add Canada and Europe without going through the manual process. So now this is ultimately what we want to display, our 3 different countries here clustered around the individual 9 cities, the 9 destinations. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I did want to show you that shortcut, if you will. and I'm going to revert this back to where we were before. Okay, so if we wanted to add those cities like I just displayed, but we want to do it in a manual fashion, let's right click on the canvas, go to select data. I'm going to add a series. This time I'm going to add Canada. Remove the one that's defaulted here. Select all the numbers under Canada. Hit OK. Simply add the remaining series, which is Europe. Remove the one and select the values here. Okay, let's hit OK. So now, since we told Excel, the chart, to actually replace the 1 through 9 with the words, we have that for every series. You might have noticed if we clicked on add the series here, if we click down to Canada, it's actually back to the 1 through 9, and similarly through Europe 1 through 9. We can change that, but the default is based on this first selection here. So if you do want to change it, we can go back to Edit and provide that axis label, go to Europe, and looks like Excel caught on that this is going to be the situation for all of them. So let's hit OK. And now let's talk a little bit about formatting this chart with perhaps a chart title. We can go to Layout. We have all these different portions of the graph that we can add. What I'd like to do is add a, a chart title over here to the left, and I want to add this above the chart. And we can actually just type out the name here, and I'm just going to type some gibberish. We could actually type that. We could type out something that we might actually want, which is something like travelers by destination and country of origin, and hit enter. But this is a text reference. This is not a reference to a cell, it's just simply text. What you might be noticing is that I'm referring to this title of the table. Now let's say I have a misspelling perhaps, or maybe I don't like this pound, and I say number, space. This portion of the graph is not related or linked to this cell, so it's not going to change. What I'd actually prefer to do, and I'm just going to change this back to, well, I'll just leave it at number for just a second. What I'd actually like to do is just single click this title and hit the equal sign. You'll notice that puts you up in the formula editing portion. And I'm simply going to reference this cell and hit enter. So now we have the entire label here, which is based on this cell. So if I change this cell, and I'll change it back to pound travelers, the chart actually gets updated as well, which is pretty powerful. It's pretty cool that you can make one change and all your changes flow throughout relative to that change. So that's a pretty cool feature. There's several other things that we can do inside the graph from a formatting perspective. I'm going to make it a little larger so it's easier to read. Perhaps we're not comfortable with this 45-degree angle text for our destinations. We can right click and go to Format Axis. And we do have some options here. We have some axis options, which basically involves where tick marks are, what's the interval distance between these categories, and so forth. We also have an alignment button down here at the bottom, which is asking us how to align the text. So what you're not going to see here in this current version is the 45-degree option, but what we do have is this text direction. We can actually rotate the text either in a rotated 270, which I tend to use, or perhaps we want it down the other way, or perhaps we want it stacked, which to me is rarely useful. I'm going to leave it as this rotated 270. I think that looks pretty good. If you did want to get it back to that 45-degree, there are some things that we can do in the ribbon. If you do click on this portion, we can always go back to our home and change it here, which gives you a few more options. So I'm not exactly sure why they didn't add these options to the chart layout, but if you wanted to get it back to that 45-degree angle, we could certainly do that. Another thing you might want to do is add a grid line. So let's go to layout, and maybe we want to add a vertical, and maybe we just want to add the separate the categories, if you will. We can do that. We can add maybe minor horizontal, so it's easier to tell where those values are occurring. We could change perhaps the step size of 50,000 to something maybe that's more useful. Let me just show you how to do that. Once we right click on this axis, we have axis options here. What we're essentially wanting to change is this value here of 50,000. So we start at 0, and then every increment it's showing, it's jumping up 50,000. So 50, 100, 150, and so forth. Maybe I want this to be 25. And you notice that all of these were an auto option. Now I'm fixing that option. Let's go ahead and hit close. So now I have a lot more numbers here to basically display and maybe make a more accurate interpretation of the numbers that are being displayed. Okay, the other thing I tend to do, and this is purely based on my liking or my preference, I don't think this is a good use, this legend over here, of space. And it certainly depends on your graph, but what we can actually do is format this legend with a border, so shape outline. I'm going to say black, and I'm going to simply move it into the graph area. And you'll notice all the grids, so I'm going to fill that shape fill with white. And now I have all this extra space here, so what I tend to do, and this is going to be a little bit difficult because we put in the grid line. So you'll notice if I hit anywhere in here, it's going to select the grid lines here, or maybe the grid lines here. You have to click around until you see the 4 dots around the area here. So it might take some practice. But here they are. I guess there's more than 4. I forgot the 2 in the center here. So 3, 6, 7, 8 markers here that we can resize. But once you have that, you can actually resize this out a little bit and perhaps make the graph look just a little bit better. You may not like this size of the text here, so what we could do is actually decrease the size of the text so all the text fits, and we could go back and then later worry about adding horizontal space here to the chart. Let's see, the only other things I can think of doing in this graph is perhaps leaving a little bit of room here for the vertical axis label and the horizontal axis label. So I'm going to actually shrink this in just a little bit for now, raise this up, and when I go to my layout button, I want axis titles display below, axis titles, let's see, display as a rotated here on the side. And here I'm just going to say pound travelers. So number of people, in other words. And here I'm going to link this. I'm going to hit equals Caribbean destination. And certainly we can do some cosmetic changes for this particular graph. Let's take a look at one more thing, the design. You can actually change the color. Maybe you don't like this blue, red, green. We can change that to a variety of default selections for us. We have a grayscale, the blue, red, green, solid blues or variations of blues, reds, variations of greens, purples, and so forth. We can just, to show you what this does, let's make this all blue. So we see the different destinations. When you start to change these, it actually changes some of the manual formatting you've done. So, be aware of that. I'm just going to simply undo this. One of the nicer, I think, options here is the white border around that really separates the data out. I also tend to use this style 26, it's saying, which gives it a more 3D look, kind of a crisper look, but any of these is really based on your preference, and I'll leave it on this one here and decrease the size of the text here. So we could do that everywhere. If we wanted bigger text here, we could select this box and use our A up, if you will, to maybe increase it to size 12. We can do that here as well to make it more consistent, or leave it at 14. There's many things that we can do. So you can certainly play around with these options and make the graph look exactly how you want it to. Okay, with that being said, what I'm actually going to do is copy this graph, because we got everything basically formatted the way we want it. And I'm going to put this right to the right of the original graph here. So we have two identical graphs. And what I'm going to do is actually change this from a clustered to a stacked. And the way I'm going to do this is to click on the graph and go to Design, and then change chart type. And we'll get this dialog window with our various column options that we saw before, just presented in a slightly different fashion. I'm going to change this now to the stacked variety and hit OK. And we can see that this changes our display of the graph just a little bit. What we're actually seeing here, instead of it clustered around 3 different column charts per one destination, we're seeing just a stacked variety of this column. So we have the total height of USA in blue here, and then the width, if you will, of the Canadian tourist, and then stacked on top would be our European, which gives you a cumulative sum if you were to look at the number of travelers here on the right. So okay, the final thing I want to show you is how to actually move these charts. Now, if you see in the spreadsheet that we made available, there's actually only one tab, Caribbean. We can actually right-click on a chart and go to the Move chart, and it provides 2 options. The first option is actually moving the chart to a new sheet. The icon is a little bit, I guess, difficult to make out, but what this is inferring is if we move it to a sheet, the chart is going to consume the entire worksheet. So this is the option I want to try first. And I'm going to call this, since we're moving the clustered, let's call it clustered. And it's going to create a new sheet called cluster and move the chart to that sheet. So here it's going to move it to the first tab. We can rearrange that if we want, just simply click and drag. It's going to change your format, so if you actually want to do some editing here, for example, if you want to make the legend text bigger, we can go to Home, use our shortcut key there, the A up. We can actually do the entire graph by using the same technique, and individually controlling these if we really wanted to. Let's see, something like that looks okay. We can go back to the Caribbean, and we can also move this sheet if we wanted. In this example, I'm going to create a tab and call it Stacked, and just simply hit enter. Now nothing is on this sheet, obviously, we just created it. Let's go back to Caribbean, and I'm going to right click on the chart, say move, and I'm going to move this as an object. Now if you look at the icon, you can see a grid line behind the chart itself. So what this is actually going to do is give us the option to move this to a particular sheet that we have already created. So I'm going to select Stacked and hit OK. And now we see that, I'm going to move this to column A. Now we actually see that the object itself was moved to a new sheet, but we still have the sheet if we were to do any other sort of Excel summaries in here. So we can move multiple charts to the sheet for example, or anything we wanted. It is movable. We can resize it, reformat it, anything we want. The difference being this first clustered consumes the entire sheet. With that said, let me just give you a short summary of what we did. We have data here summarizing the travelers to various destinations. We created first a cluster chart. We individually selected the United States tourist. We went through the quick way of adding the remaining series. We went through the manual way of adding the series. We did a little formatting in terms of your preference of what you like to see in a graph. We added the chart title, the axis labels, and changed the direction of the text and added some grid lines. And then we went through the series of moving the chart to a new sheet and then as an object in a new sheet, or in a sheet I should say, that was previously created.